Hello and welcome to the virtual roundtable on Do Technical Assessment Tools Simplify the Recruitment Process for HR Managers. I'm your host, Krithi. Thank you for joining us today. So, in the middle of 2020, organizations across sectors and the world over adopted digital technology at an unprecedented scale. Against the post pandemic backdrop, where businesses have taken the entire range of operations to the online medium, talent recruitment and management are no exception. And far from being a temporary fix to the global disruption, the digital renovation of the recruitment process has emerged as a key to resolving existing and emerging bottlenecks while achieving the optimal results. So, approximately 47% of Indian tech companies have moved to the online assessments for hiring on technical positions. And technological integration is not only allowing HR managers and recruiters to transcend geographical barriers by hiring top talent remotely from across the world, it is also empowering them to accelerate the onboarding process, minimize the turnaround time, and optimize the assessment and evaluation process efficiently and cost effectively. And today I'm going to talk about these processes, challenges, and the outcome of the technical assessment tools with three powerhouses of knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm elated to have Antrixsh Gupta, founder and CEO at Danalitic, Aditya Singh, talent acquisition head India at Informatica, and Krithi Marla, director talent acquisition from CISCO. Welcome to the discussion. I would request each one of you to please introduce yourselves and give me the opening remarks. So, Aditya, will start with you.
Thanks. First, it's a pleasure coming on this platform. I am Aditya. I head talent acquisition for Informatica in India. Been doing this role for the last 4 years and working in the talent acquisition space for the last 20 years. So it's a pleasure and looking forward for a fruitful interaction with my colleagues.
Krithi, we can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I was speaking on mute. Antrixsh, we'll move to you.
Yeah. So thanks for having me here, Krithi. So my name is Anthrax Gupta. I'm a founder and CEO of Danalitic. So we are specialized in actually into the AI, ML, and the blockchain development and the cloud solutioning. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks, Antrixsh. Krithi?
Hi, everyone. I'm Krithi Marla, based out of India, and I look after the APJC talent acquisition for CISCO. I'm also very, very excited to be part of this panel. I have about 2 decades of talent acquisition experience, especially the technical assessment is very, very key and critical in this digital world. So I'm looking forward to the discussion and also learn from my fellow panelists out here. So very excited.
Thank you, Krithi. And I'm really delighted to have all three of you for the discussion. Looking forward to some great insights from each one of you. So quickly, let's get started. You know, the industry-specific platforms catering to developers, writers, data engineers, or data analytics, are diversified and highly skilled talent pool is available in the market, I should say. But, picking up the right person to hire and evaluate the right person is the kind of challenge that we face, right? Picking up the right person from the large pool is one thing that we start with. So I would like to understand from each one of you that what is the proportion of time you spend to analyze the hard skills and the soft skills of the recruit that you are trying to bring on board. Krithi, will start with you.
Yeah, in my opinion, this is really, really a core foundational which need to be, which need to be right for us to evaluate and assess a candidate right for the job, right? So very important step in the overall recruitment process. And the way we do in CISCO is like the hard skill and the soft skill are somewhere interlinked for us, which means that, how do you evaluate a soft skill when you are evaluating a hard skill becomes very, very key to us, and that's how we do it at CISCO, right? And if you ask me the proportion of the time we spend, like I said, it is a very critical segment of what we do when we hire. The way we look at it is like there are some foundational skills which is required to be part of CISCO, right? So these are some of the things which we believe as an organization that is, really decided at a let's say corporate level or at a business level, which is basically happens time to time, because those wouldn't change every then that's one part of the time, where they spend to, analyze and evaluate what is required for an engineering function, right? Or what is required for a sales function. Those could be termed as, the skills, which is basically soft skill. That's one part of, how we structure it. The second thing is like what is required for the for that particular job, right? That is really defined at the time of a creation of the rec. The recruiter do power of meetings with the hiring managers or the the leaders. That's when we spend a lot of time to really structure it to say that, okay, these are the critical skills required for to hire this individual, or to hire this requisition, right? So if you, so I think both are very necessary to hire the best talent required, and then it need to be interlinked. It cannot be separated, in my opinion, because that's how you can make sure that you evaluate and you have a good assessment to hire the best talent.
Thank you, Krithi, for that. I will move to Antrixsh now. Antrixsh?
So the Danalitic is coming from the client-facing roles. We are a process and the service-based company. So generally, what happens when we hire any candidate? So it's very important rule for us to hire. To technical, we can easily manage by his gesture. He's answering our questions, technical stuff. He's working previously in the organizations. He handles the projects earlier. Okay, but if you talk about the soft skills, so at the end, he is going to be the face of our company to the client facing. If we talk about the soft skills, so it's very, very critical assessment for us as well. Like in interview, or sometimes it happens, people are feels very good to be in interview, and when they join, it's very really difficult to be understand at that particular time how we now manage. So if I would say keep the technical hiring and the soft skill assessment, both are very, very much important, and in Danalitic we prefer both to be give the same weightage to at the time of selection criteria, because if anything goes wrong, it's totally on the stake of any organization if you are into the client facing role regularly. So mostly we prefer to give the same weightage for the hard skill and the soft skill for the selection criteria.
Okay. Aditya?
Yeah, thanks. I agree completely with Antrixsh and Krithi. Krithi actually spoke quite a bit of the points which I wanted to pick up. I will try and not repeat what Krithi and Antrixsh spoke about. Maybe take 2 steps back. We are sitting in a cusp, right? The first cusp was the invention of electricity. We moved to industrial revolution. The second cusp was invention of internet, and we moved into digital, remember, in 2000. And now the global pandemic has pushed us into a hybrid world, and we are still looking at each other to evolve and move forward, and we will learn from each other. The society has become more collaborative, right? As simple as that, today I can pick up the phone, maybe speak to Krithi and say what's working with you, what's not working with you. Maybe 10, 15 years back, we won't share any information, being very honest, right? So the world's evolved as we speak. So coming to the, hard skills and soft skills, my say is a little different. I believe for a fact that at least in technology, the shelf life is very small, right? And it's evolving at, every 2 years, there is an upgrade. Look at your phone, there's an upgrade in every quarterly, at least, for anybody who uses an iPhone. So there is a consistent change in that. So what has moved forward is, while you have hard skills from a technology perspective, organizations today are re-looking at their workforce of saying that, hey, I have Sukriti in my setup today. Is she upskilling herself to move in the right direction or not? If she's able to pivot herself towards the future, I think that's the direction companies are looking at, and then evolving. Now, the skill technology, what she works on, maybe on a Java scripting side, if she's working on React, or she's working on Angular side, or any of those, scripting technologies, these can be trained, right? But inherent soft skills, I think so. That's where companies are now trying to assess people, right, on your future skills, right, your ability to work in matrix organization, yeah, cognitive flexibility is the right word, your service orientation, your judgment, creativity, you being a critical thinker. These are very important part, specifically people who do dev roles. Creativity, product development, those are the ones which differentiate between us and the machines, right, as we move forward. So slowly, but seeing the prevalence towards more towards softer skills, complex problem solving, even from an assessment, right? Uh, while for basic assessment, all of us are using, coding tests and few other places from an assessment. Companies have evolved to looking at gaming as a technology to assess people, right? To see, if Krithi is the ideal employee, Krithi will do a gaming assessment, and we will assess, okay, for this predominantly, these are the things which come up, and then we assess an Aditya who gives a test. So there is no way of cheating because my true self will come out during the game from an gaming. So there is an evolution, but as you said, these are exciting times, right? We are all learning from each other. Sukriti, back to you.
Absolutely, and I think discussions like this, actually help you understand what other people are doing. And in case if you're not doing, you can probably take inspiration and start doing it. And it might work for you, it might not work for you, but still everything is a learning. All of us are in a learning phase, and I think we are experimenting, we are innovating every moment to, crack the challenges that we have been facing. Because every time, every year, I think there's something new in terms of technology that comes up, and we try to innovate ourselves, we try to accommodate things which are required. So when I say that how much time you allocate to these two things, I would want to understand that kind of time frame that you look at. Weightage, I understand that both the things are equally important for you, but both these things take different time frames, right? The evaluation process of giving out questions to candidates, and the time frame to have that interview set up to understand the qualitative approach of the candidate is different. So tell me that at an approximate rate, how much time does these two things, take for you? Antrixsh, what would you quote when I ask you the time frame?
So time frame, if I just say ki only we give the same weightage. So I cannot say ki, okay, for technical assessment we give the 1 day for them or a week's time for evaluation of any applications, and the soft skill we are just giving them only a few hours to assessment. So it also comes ki how it's quickly write the code or how it's represent onto the tool assessment tools. Like if I just ask to tell us about yourself, or generally we follow a practice for a person to record a 2 minutes video along with your application candidature. So it's help us to our recruitment team to evaluate the candidate into the soft skill at the very first stage as well. Okay, so whether he is just connecting with the eyes with the cameras, or it is just taking care very casually those videos, because at the first time when we are assessing anyone, so it's a human tendency. If he wants to join any organization, he wants to be good, right? So
Right.
he cannot okay, no, we can take it as a very casually, this video creation, the cover letter of the resume. So it's very hard job to be identify exact into the hours or into the number of days how much we spend, but a good time is to be taken care by our team, and everyone should do that to assess any candidate. So it's very easy nowadays for hiring it for technical stuffs, though by using any technical tools or assessment tools we can use that in organizations. Everyone use that. We can just check on their profiles on their open source or what they have did in the previously. But for the soft skill, it's very crucial stage for everyone to be assessed. And similar time we just not similar, but yes, we give a good ample amount of time we give to the candidate for this
So I'll
stage.
tell you where am I coming from when it comes to asking the time frame. While I was doing my bit of research, I came across the time frame that normally an organization takes 41 to 45 days of bandwidth to, close a technical position or a hiring that they're trying to do. So, this I understand this entire process involves both these things that we are trying to talk about. So, in your organization, how much time do you normally take? using the technical assessment tool in the market, or whatever your process or your internal tool might be, how much time does it take, Aditya?
So again, depend on the level where you want to
Okay.
hire the individual at.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, junior, shorter, faster, because your assessments are lesser. As you go
Of course.
senior, it becomes more because the impact is far more higher, right? But yeah, if you fluctuate between 45 to 60 is what everybody would be sitting at, honestly, from a hiring perspective. But adding on to what Antrixsh said was very interesting point, which I want to add on, is if you look at from a technical assessment perspective, hiring managers, I'm being very honest, are lazy. They don't want to train people, right? And they inherently would want a ready-made person in because they don't want to spend time training. Because they are so inwardly proportional to their own work, they don't know what's evolving in the technology perspective. My question is always back to hiring manager: are you the right person to know what's going to grow from an organization perspective? A lot of time they are not aware of it because you're so much engrossed in what's happening in the organization, you're not aware. So spending more time, as I said, more time on the skills part right now, but I'm seeing a pivot towards that because technology is there to help, as you said, Sukriti, is ability to save time from a business perspective and then move forward. Even from a softer skills aspect, right? There are ways of assessment, right? You have star assessment process, right? You have situation, task, action, results, right? You can look at assessing people from that angle. So there are logical ways of hiring people, but we are moving in that direction of getting in people faster because it's a candidate-led market as we speak, Sukriti. So it's evolving as every day as we speak. Back to you.
Absolutely. And the decision makers, they are more like customers these days. Our candidates have become like customers. You have to please them to be here, and you have to be very selective while you're trying to actually bring them on board. So that's something that I have learned through these discussions. Moving on, previously the recruiters had to depend on to that intuition part that we say, or maybe they had an experience to determine the true value of a candidate. Now the things have changed absolutely, and now it's not your intuition or your mind game or your experience to evaluate a candidate. Now the tables have turned, and now we redirect ourselves to having more objective and standardized evaluation process. So I would like to understand that how do you bring that objectivity in your evaluation process, and if how that entire process is pairing out, because we are sitting in this pandemic, I think more than a year now, and how things have changed earlier and now, what the process have evolved. How does it fare, Krithi?
Yeah, and it is very interesting, right? I think, I'm sure Antrixsh and Aditya also can resonate to what I'm talking about. So when it comes to talent pool in India, right? I think we have plenty of talent pool, but I think narrowing down to who's that best talent pool is the that big task we all have ahead of us, right? And it is very, very fascinating to see that we all our talent pool knows how to write a beautiful resume, but then it comes to evaluating that best talent. Is that the same which gets resonated while evaluating? Maybe the answer is no, right? So we had this challenge almost 4 or 5 years back where we used to interview plenty of candidates to get to that one offer, right? And then when you are at this environment where you have to hire plenty of the hire in a year, it is impossible to get to that objective way very easily, right? And there is this experience kicks in from the hiring manager, and there's a whole fatigueness kicks in as well, right? So that's why we had to really bringing the objective way of interviewing. So that's one aspect. And also the other aspect really is like we have to look at inward and outward. The approach needed to be both, right? So what we have done is in order to standardize is like, one, we have introduced assessment tools both for our technical roles and also for non-technical roles. The way we do is different. For the technical roles, it becomes very, very easy because easy way to objectively assess, because there's this coding, and if the candidates are passing the coding, it becomes easy to filter those candidates to bring them to the selection process, right? But it was interesting journey for us for the last couple of years, where we have been able to introduce the assessment for the non-technical, where we have brought in the, I think the cognitive ability, what Aditya talked about. It is a similar structure, but a little bit, variance in how candidates react to the situation differently, right? And that becomes to understand their skills, and how do they react in a real-time scenario, right? So that is something the assessment tool has helped us a lot to standardize, because that also gives you that optimal benchmarking of the kind of a candidate you are bringing into the organization as well, right? So that's one thing. The second thing is, like, we also realized that in order to bring in the standardized, approach, we had to train ourselves to really see how we assessing the candidate in a standardized or in an objective way, right? So that's why we spent a lot of time in the last couple of years to bring in the training or interview training for all of our interviews. And today we are in a stage where we are saying effective number first. If a hiring manager or an interviewer within our organization have not done that training, they are not eligible to interview, right? That's to really make sure that when you are interviewing, the experience also matters, right? Like there is a competition which is very, very fierce. Then how do you make sure that that objectivity you are expecting from a candidate is also there inward, right? That's why I talked about that inward and outward approach is what we're taking. Definitely the assessment tools are really, really great, because they help to objectively measure and assess the candidate what we require.
Exactly. And I was about to come to this AI powered, technical tools that are helping us in all possible manners, right? Maybe when you're trying to predict, the skills of somebody, or maybe when you're trying to build a qualitative and a quantitative report of, basis of what the person has performed. AI is playing a very important role for all of us in terms of building and giving us, aiding us with the right kind of method and processes that we actually look at when it comes to the digital platform. Aditya, I would like to understand from you that when we talk about these empowered tools, being technically advanced, help me understand that the measuring of skills that we talk, how do you measure the skills of the candidates? What is the process involved, and how do you think it's matching up to the expectation that you have as a recruiter, as a TA head in your organization?
Yeah, so as I said, I think you hit the nail on the head. You need to use technology. See, the ability to see things without being influenced by personal feelings, right? That's all being very objective about anything, right? I think machine and the way we assess brings out an unbiased approach about individuals, right? Without me, in fact, now masking resumes and all of that anyways virtually happens. But all these assessment tools are, which Krithi also spoke about, are very important because they drill down on what you want to look at. Supposing if I'm going to assess someone on coding, there is a specific coding test which the individual does, and then there's a follow-up on the same tool. Right now, technology before this has also evolved. You have NLP tools, which will basically do the initial part of shortlisting. To any large-scale organization, they have an inherent issue of too many applicants. I'm sure Krithi faces that with CISCO. There are a lot of people applying. I had the same issue when I was working with Accenture. So you have a lot of people applying. So one really depends on the kind of tool, what works for you as an organization. Where are you looking from talent from? Secondly is assessing what works for you. Right now, for a core tech company, it's very important that we look at assessment tools, which will drill down individuals and look at everything else from an assessment standpoint, and then move forward of saying that, hey, this person is technically sound from a base skill perspective. Now, would you want to interview this person and take the next step? The aim is, one, to give you an unbiased approach, and also give back time to your stakeholder on doing actually what they're supposed to do. You want least time from your business stakeholder spending time on recruiting, right? they should maybe just do one round of discussion and then move forward from a hiring perspective. It will not happen so fast, but the time taken, it saves a lot, Sukriti. And if you have the right tool in place and they're assessing what you want to work in, and if it is predictive, and say, okay, Sukriti can do this work because I have given Sukriti something to work on, and she can't copy it from a Google or anything else. Those are the ideal tools. And then you just look at then you look at individual from a fitment, from a culture standpoint, from an organization, as I said, a star or something else, whatever works for from an organization perspective. Look at those assessment and then move forward. Or you can look at even that assessment from a gaming technology. You actually use everything end to end. And from a longevity of perspective, as you talked about effectiveness of hiring, you look at individual performance over a period of time of saying that I hired X person by interviewing through an assessment tool. I hired Y person through regular interviewing. How are they doing in 3 years' time? What's their performance rating? Have they grown further in the organization? Are they in the organization for a period of time? We'll give you a basic yardstick of what's being more successful and what not being. And also asking that particular individual of saying that which did you find was better? And if you ask anybody, they would look at assessment tools from an individual standpoint, because it's an unbiased approach, right? Maybe I just had a bad day and Sukriti, I'm interviewing Sukriti, and then I'll take it on her that particular day. So all of that moves away, but then our role changes a lot of seeing that in TA, how do you add value of making sure that you know what your customer wants? As simple as that. Long answers. Back to you.
Some very pertinent points you've added, Aditya, I'm sure. Antrixsh, I'll move to you. You being the founder and the CEO of your organization, you have a very holistic, preview of these things. So I think you have a different take onto these things, because if we have two TA heads here, their job and their specifications would be different from what you as CEO you look at. So help me understand what are your perspectives onto this.
See, Sukriti, the major thing is that by using any tool that is AI powered or the ML powered, or it's having the NLP contributions in their tool, it saves the time of the talent acquisition team. A lot's time we save if we are using those tools. We are using those tools, and our talent acquisition team saves a lot. The first thing, if you got, suppose if you just posted a job requirement on a job portal or internal resources, we got lots of resumes. Okay, and by shortlisting those resumes manually, it's very tedious task for everyone, right? Onto the screen, computer screen, or just taking the printout, or just matching the skills with the hiring manager's requirement. It's very tedious task. But if we have a tool in the place in organization, a right tool, as the Aditya said, a right tool at the right place in the organization, it saves lots of time. Like the CV comes into your database, the system will just give you the good artifacts, like this candidates match your skills along with the requirement that you got from the team. Okay, and then would you like to just know about that? There are a very good tool in the market where we always ask the participants to just apply for the, once it's he or she shortlisted, he or she can apply directly onto the company's portal, and we just get a very good qualitative resumes. Rather, see, everybody, I go back to the previous answer, everybody wants to go beyond to the resume, okay? But through AI or ML, we can exactly found it, what has written in the resume, okay? And how they have portrayed it. Like a very minute level, you can drill down. Like if suppose I just ask, I just want to hire a cloud computing engineer or the Angular engineer, I just want to hire. So is his or her project is related to the Angular MVC or the other framework he or she has used in that words, particular things. Also, if we just only talk about the cloud computing, so how many years of experience he has, we can directly drill down it. I do not need to be, or my talent acquisition team do not need to be go back to the screen or take a printout, just finding out onto the resume. So it takes a lot of time. So it's a very, these tools for the hiring plays a very vital role in today's time, and it saves a lots of time. And unbiased hiring can be done through these tools. So as I said, Gabe might be his days is bad for at the time of hiring, but it's very good to be right tool at the right place in the organization to hiring the candidate. And also by using these tools, we can create our benchmarks. Okay, we hire these 10 people, they are performing in the last 1 year this way. By using these tools, now the system will also give us a good qualitative candidates feedbacks. So it's very easy for us and the talent acquisition team also to hire based upon these tools. So that's my opinion on that.
Okay, so to add on to what Antrixsh just mentioned about resumes, what I feel and what my experience of talking to all these experts so far says, that very often in today's world, so social media, the entire digital world sometimes is a facade for all of us, and you do not know how true a candidate is trying to portray himself or herself in front of you. Everybody wants to be very impressive, right? And through these virtual calls, or maybe in the first set of calls, he or she would try to impress you in the best possible manner. The resume that speaks about their core skills, about their competencies, about the achievements that they have, might not be so true to their core values and what they really do, right? This is where these evaluation tools actually help you understand that how true are the things mentioned on the resume. And this is one thing that I think is going to stay with all of us in the coming time, because this actually one removes the biasness entirely. You have to select candidates basis of what their true talent is. Secondly, a very important thing that I feel is that you have a basis of a rejection, right? You have that benchmarking done for all the processes that's in place, and you have a fair means to tell the other candidate you've not qualified for this particular round, and this is your score. We had benchmarked everybody to this score, and since you didn't achieve that, you were not true to it, right? You, this actually, I think, helps organization and the candidates to have one a fair bond. The other person would understand and would actually cope up with the fact that, okay, this is the reason they didn't hire me, and probably there's scope to improvement, right? And at the same time, organization's part is done. You filtered out candidates, you have 10 candidates to finally interview and bring them on board. So I think this entire process has been simplified for all of us. And when it comes to working in a digital world, where I think we have teams that we haven't even met, right? We have people onboarded we haven't met. We just speak to each other daily on calls, and we work. We do our jobs, right? And I think simplified in this manner, yes, we do miss those meetings in the office, those coffee table chats and other things. But I think this is how the entire working system has developed. Moving on, so when we talk about this entire process of evaluation, there are different formats of questions and evaluation methods. You have MCQ questions, you have case study based questions, you sometimes have their profile and the core skill based questions that you can ask, right? Now, when it comes to these bifurcation and formats, I'm sure there are two variants in this also. The analysis of understanding the qualitative and the quantitative analysis, wherein we understand that the quantitative analysis is helped by the tools that we are using in the market. What is your approach on the qualitative analysis, which is equally important? As we were talking about the hard skills and the soft skills, I think the approach which involves the qualitative analysis, how important that it is. Antrixsh, I'll begin with you.
So qualitative analysis, we generally the organizations follows like all the specific measure to hiring any candidate. Like for qualitative, it starts from the screening of the candidate, in which background he is coming from. Okay, and what I would say, not exactly, but if he's coming from an open source, is he contributed anything onto their portfolio, what he's mentioned in their profile,
Okay, I think we've lost his connection. Aditya, we will move to you meanwhile he joins back.
Sure. As what Antrixsh was basically saying is call it quantitative and qualitative, right? Quantitative, obviously, we can look at from an assessment tools perspective. Qualitative is more.
I think it's
Yeah,
coming back.
go on.
Yeah.
yeah. So if if we just go for the qualitative hiring or the qualitative measurement in the hiring, so if we just see like assessment tools, this plays a very vital role over here. First thing, because there's no man involved in the behind the tool to change any metrics or anything other informations. So it's very unbiased hiring. It's not a biased hiring. Okay. Also, if candidate is hiring, if he's shortlisted, he just got an immediate response from the tool. Also, when when we just say ki, okay, now if he's shortlisted for the, he immediately get the email notification. If he or she is not shortlisted, he also get this immediately notification for that. Okay, so the candidate is also very okay, open, okay, the organization is responding to our requirements, whether we applied for, when we applied for this jobs or not. Okay, so or these are the things that follows every organizations nowadays when we are uh, uh, into the this pandemic era. So everybody's working remotely, and see, it's totally a different thing when we talk of like if person is coming for the interview in the office, we can totally judge him. Okay, but when we are doing for the remotely, these tools will play a very vital role for the qualitative analysis as well.
Thanks, Antrixsh. Aditya?
Yeah, so quantitative is very easy assessment tool and look at any of these places. Qualitative part will vary on level, location, what role are you hiring that individual on, right? As I spoke about, you can look at STAR technique, and there are a lot of other behavioral ways of assessing individuals from a assessment standpoint, right? I remember there used to be Thomas profiling and a lot of other tools which are already there from a behavioral aspect. The most important part from qualitative hiring is looking at from a fitment, from a culture standpoint. You need to see, and the senior the individual becomes, this becomes a more important part. It's not important that individual being little more technically sound, but then ability to navigate the organization, fit into the culture, because person at leadership hiring, a wrong person in will impact 40-50 people below, right? So the impact is far more higher. So the qualitative part, you need to look at some of those assessment methods. While I know there are ways, there are tools now which are coming up from an assessment, but what you need to see is from a culture standpoint, does that individual fit into the organization culture as we move forward from a hiring perspective, which plays an important part from an assessment standpoint, what Antrixsh also spoke about. But dependent on case to case, looking at teams from that angle plays an important part. You can't just wash your hands from only looking at technical assessment and not looking at it from a qualitative perspective. But there has to be a structure in it from a qualitative. You just can't just say that, look, speak and say, this person, that thing won't work, Sukriti.
So how do you define that process of analysis when it comes to the qualitative?
Yeah, so as I said, I predominantly use STAR technique from an assessment standpoint. So I give them a situation, then they will, how the person approaches, looking at the way they looked at the task, what are the actions they took, okay, and what was the result out of it. So it gives you a summary of saying that if I put this person in this situation in due course of time, this is the kind of result that individual. So it gives you some way of forecasting, of saying that the impact this individual have, or you can give a hypothetical question of saying that if you were in the next situation, what would come out. But as I said, this is one area I feel there is scope of work which can happen because technical assessment is easier, right? Because you put in key in and there's a repository which will keep on shuffling between, if Krithi takes a test or Antrixsh takes a test, it'll be different ones, right? This part has to get customized to the organization's value and culture and everything, and that will evolve as we as we speak. But yeah, STAR technique, Thomas assessment, did long 10-12 years back. These are various ways of assessing, but it should work for the organization. All right. What might work for me may not work for Krithi. depending on the organization.
Interesting. And I truly believe onto this part being very crucial, Aditya, because I think this is where no matter how competent the person is or how the person has performed when it comes to the evaluation, this is the decision maker, one of the decision making factors, I should say, wherein you understand the approach, the mindset of the person, whether he or she will be able to fit into the moments that you require, right? The kind of situations, as you mentioned, that you give them a hypothetical situation and how the person would react, the kind of ideation, the kind of approach or remedies that the person is going to propose to you would actually portray and display how suitable the person is for you and your organization. Because the customer facing role that Antrixsh spoke about is also one of the criterions that you look at. Maybe you're hiring for that particular role, and this is where you need to have those people with the right mindset to give you the approach that you have in the organization. That integration is very important, and I think this is where the qualitative approach is actually becomes very crucial. So thank you so much for that, Krithi. We can't hear you, Krithi. I think you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
So what I was saying is like both Antrixsh and Aditya have both covered, but I think couple of things I would wanted to try and add, right? So which is basically, so in my opinion, the technical assessment tool should not be an entire decision making, right? Because that can be an in the entry process and helps to really narrow down who we are interviewing and how that can lead to the best talent, right? But then I think that's when the qualitative assessment plays an important, and that's a hard part. I agree with Aditya that that's a really hardest part, right? Because the technical evaluation is easy, because it's somewhere directive, not really, it's not like gray part, right? It's like white or black. So it's very that way, I think a very objective way of assessing, right? The qualitative is where I think I would go back to the point what I made is like it also depends on the interviewer assessment skills, right? And that's where I think each organization need to has to actually play an important role to set that expectation of what is required for that that interview, that organization, and what's the expectation each interviewer need to have while evaluating these skills, right? That becomes very, very important, be it behavioral interview technique, how do you conduct those to derive at that skill required for the job, or even unbiased interview technique, right? And which then will come to a decision of, okay, this is the skill first and this is what is required, becomes an important aspect for me. The qualitative is where I think the interviewer plays an important segment to decide, because one interviewer is very different from another interviewer, right? Like Aditya can evaluate a candidate very differently than me, but then what is that core foundational we are interviewing on, that need to be very, very clear, and that can be achieved only by putting together this structure of expectation, the training and the coaching and the tools, right? The providing that tool becomes very, very important.
Absolutely. So, Krithi, tell me, what are the parameters for you to analyze the qualitative skills of the candidate? How do you think? Because Aditya mentioned a couple of them. How do you do it in CISCO?
It's the analytical skills, right? And also the problematic skill, how a problem solving skills is key, right? So, and I think in the beginning of the conversation as well, that's why I made that point that both hard skills and soft skills cannot be separated. It is actually interconnected, right? And that's how we set the expectation for any role, is like how do you assess when you are assessing a technical skill, how that candidate brings in the analytical skills or a problem solving skills or a logical thinking, right? That becomes very, very important. We also use we do a skill first hiring quite a lot. I think I've spoken about it in my previous panel as well. That's where we do use actually STAR technique as well, and we have trained interviewers to use that as one of the tools to evaluate like how a candidate thinks when it comes to a situation which he or she has dealt with in the past, and it how do they react, right? So these are some of the techniques we use to evaluate.
Wonderful. So we are trying to do that permutation and combination in all sorts of manners to simplify what we are actually about. And I think 80% of the things are solved for us, but that 20% to crack and to innovate is something that all of us are still working on. And to actually take care of the pain areas that we have, of the candidates, of the market reputation that you as a brand hold in the market, is everything that comes in the preview of this entire recruitment process that we spoke about. So I think this was a fantastic discussion. Thank you so much, Antrixsh, Aditya, and Krithi for this enriching conversation. I had a wonderful time, having the insights shared with each one of you. Let me please have the closing remarks from each one of you. So we'll begin with you, Aditya.
Yeah, so it's been a great session, and I think so. Thanks to Antrixsh and Krithi, I think they touched upon a lot of valid points from a from an assessment standpoint, and it also gives us insight on what other organizations think from a hiring perspective, right? And I think something where we all agree is we are all learning from each other. Both hard skills and the softer skills will play an important part. It really depends on uh, what role and what level you are hiring from a hiring perspective. And and as we said, it's a candidate-led market, so it's very important that the value proposition as employers, what you bring to the table, plays an important part. But as you said, Sukriti, assessment tool is the right way of assessing. It's an unbiased approach which gives you the right way forward from an assessment standpoint, which really helps on organizations. Right? Thank you.
Thanks, Aditya. Antrixsh?
So thanks, Aditya and Krithi, and thanks to Krithi for having me here. So if I talk about this technical assessment tools, everything is important as a point of hiring, because it's totally as you people said, it's a candidate market. Yes, definitely. And if the right candidate is there, so it will be good for the win. It is a win-win situation for both, for the candidate, for the organization as well. And these tools plays a very important role in today's market when we are working remotely. Okay, and most of the teams are working remotely, and it plays very, very important role to assessment for hiring the candidate to till the onboarding him or her in an organization. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Antrixsh. Krithi?
First of all, thank you for having me. It was really, really great discussion. What I wanted to tell is like things are evolving every single day in the recruiting world. Pre-COVID was very, very different. I think some of the technical assessment, what we're talking about, was a little bit, I would say, easier. But then, with the digital world, it has added a lot of other variants of the challenges, right? So I don't know what 6 months from now or 1 year from now, what other variants will be part of the talent acquisition world, right? I think what is important is like we as an organization or we as an individual need to learn from each other. I think that's what we did it today. So this was a great conversation in that direction. And I think as a talent acquisition fraternity, right, I think it's very, very important that how do you become agile to keep learning what works or what doesn't work, right? Because like I said, in the digital world today, I think it has made even more challenging than how it used to be. So I think that's how I would look at it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Krithi. Thanks, everyone. Now, I would like to invite Ayush Sharma, the Regional Sales Manager for Enterprise at TechEg, for the vote of thanks.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Krithi, for bringing in such a amazing panel on board today for today's discussion. It was indeed a very, very interesting conversation. Uh, Thank you so much, Ms. Krithi, Mr. Aditya, Mr. Antrixsh, for joining us here for today's session and sharing your insights out of your experiences on how technical assessments tool can uh, drive the overall recruitment efficiencies. Out of the discussions, it was coming out very, very clearly that assessment tools have been gaining a very, very significant prominence over the past few years, as it offers various advantages. It offers a very, very scientific approach. It offers you the benefit of doing the validation checks. The tools are reliable. It offers you the standardization across across hiring that you're doing for various roles that you hire for. So it offers a very, very significant advantage. Krithi spoke about deploying assessment tools for both tech and non-tech roles for the purpose of bringing in standardization across the overall selection process. Likewise, Aditya also spoke about utility of assessment tools for identifying the best talent and the skill proficiency level of the candidates for various roles that Informatica is hiring for, and candidates who meet the basic cut then further pushed to the business for taking the interviews, and this saves a lot of times. Antrixsh also spoke about utility of assessment tool in eliminating the hiring biases. In fact, all the panelists have agreed that cutting out a well-defined process with automated evaluation for screening of candidate not just help you in identifying the right fit profile, it also could help you in building the reference pool, eliminating hiring biases. It can also take care of capacity constraint tech at the recruiter level and can bring in a very good candidate experience. So this was my takeaway from the entire session. It was very, very helpful. I'm sure the session was insightful for our audience also. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to having more such enriching discussions as we move forward. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
Over to
so
you,
much,
Singh.
Ayush. Thank you so much, Ayush. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, in fact. And if you're looking to hire and evaluate tech professionals, you can schedule 14 days free trial for our AI-powered technical assistance tool, which is called SpeedHire, that offers 360-degree solutions. It's time for me to sign off. Stay tuned for more. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.